One of Poe's most famous stories, The Telltale Heart, reads like his nightmarish hallucinations. The tale opens with the young caretaker of an elderly man is obsessed with the old man's eye.
True. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain. But once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. And so, by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man.
But I think what sets The Telltale Heart apart and makes it particularly chilling is the way that Poe stages the story from the perspective of the killer and allows us to see that there's an absolute disconnect here between the narrator's intelligence, his intellect, his ability to organize a crime, and any human sentiment that might accompany the action. There is none.
Night after night, he enters the old man's room, but his eye is closed.
And so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye.
One night, as he opens the door, a noise awakens the old man.
I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle. Presently, I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror.
He can hear the beating of the old man's heart. He can hear his terror.
I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. The old man was dead. Yes, he was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more.
The young man cuts up the corpse and buries the body parts of the old man beneath his bedroom floor. He washes all traces of blood from his hands and from his clothes. In the middle of the night, police officers knock at the door. A scream has been heard. The police are investigating. The young man invites them in for tea and seats them over the floor where he's buried the body of the old man.
I smiled, for what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own, in a dream. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. I was singularly at ease.
It's a fascinating moment at the end of The Telltale Heart when the narrator is inviting the police inside and proceeds to sit down with them and very calmly discuss the situation. He feels as if he has nothing to lose, and in fact, there's a kind of quiet triumph that he enjoys there. He believes he's committed the perfect crime, and he flaunts it. by behaving in this completely casual way with the police.
But before long, his head begins to ache. He hears him ringing in his ears.
It was a low, dull, quick sound, much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton, and yet the officers heard it not. Why would they not be gone?
The heart is one of the few things about our body that announces that it's there. Mostly we're not really aware too much of what our interior is up to. The heart, you can hear, you can feel it. It's like a clock.
Was it possible they heard not? No, they hear. They suspected. They knew.
There's this perverse quality again and again in Poe's tales. It's no good to create a perfect crime if someone doesn't know about it. There's something within that has to get out.
I felt that I must scream or die. Villains, I shrieked! I admit the deed! Tear up the planks! Here! Here! It is the beating of his hideous heart!
And I think that's the terror that Poe's tales also leave us with, that no matter what you do, once you have seen or thought something horrible, there will always be ways for it to return. Things never die in Poe.